Let's bring back our powerhouse panel for this Saturday morning. Constitutional and civil rights attorney Amir Benno and National Advisory Board member for Project 21, Christopher Arps. Okay, folks, back in the 70s, economists came up with what they called the Carter Misery Index. Now we sort of have a Biden Misery Index. Take a look at this. You've got 100,000 people walking out on the job in Striketober. 4.3 million people quitting in August. So you've got this. You have a labor crisis. Republicans now seizing on the opportunity to compare the current president to Jimmy Carter. And when you look at inflation and you look at how much the cost of everything is going up, it's not that much of a stretch. Gas prices, the price of milk, the price of lumber, everything. Chris, I want to go to you first. New data showing 40% of households are struggling now to pay their bills. Winter heating costs are expected to skyrocket due to surging oil and natural gas and other fuel prices. Where do you see this hitting Americans hardest when you talk to folks?
Well, I'm old enough to remember Jimmy Carter. I was in 5th grade when he was elected president. I remember when interest rates were 18, 19%. You could go to your bank and get a certificate of deposit, which was 21%. So I've seen this before. I tell you, I don't do a lot of the grocery shopping, but I went to the grocery store lately, and you've been hearing the reports about store shelves being bare. Well, I witnessed that firsthand. And so I think that's where the greatest impact of all of these shortages are going to be, just trying to get food off the shelves and into your homes to feed your families.
Allison, the labor shortage slamming the economy, and it's not letting up. It's forcing companies to reinvent themselves. They're raising wages, which the administration likes to talk about, but they're also increasing automation, which ultimately is going to decrease the number of people they need and decrease wages. How do you see all of this starting to shape up in terms of its impact on families?
Well, I think a lot of companies were planning on trying to do, this innovation and trying to, cut back before COVID, but they've had to do it now. You go to the grocery store and they have more of those self-checkout lines. Seth Denson was just showing me this truck in Texas that it drives itself, which is kind of scary. So there's a shortage of workers, and employees want a lot of money, and I think it's going to come down to you can't be picky and choosy, because eventually businesses are going to figure it out, and they're going to know how to work with less. But what's happening, we're seeing that when you go to the grocery store, like Chris was saying, or you go out to eat, everything is costing more, and this is affecting the middle to lower class, not the rich, which the administration is saying.
What I wonder is whether or not the administration is now going to say, well, we got all these families struggling. We need to have this dependency society. We need more federal programs. We need more aid. I want to talk about this tweet from Ron Klain, the White House chief of staff, dismissing all of these issues as so-called high-class problems. The administration appearing really to be tone deaf. The White House press secretary avoiding answering questions about the tweet. Listen to this. So essentially, oh, there she is.
Are we addressing the Chief of Staff's Twitter habits?
Yes.
It is not a top priority. I would tell you at this point in time, the Chief of Staff is out there speaking on his own accord to members of Congress, to the media frequently, as any Chief of Staff does. And I think it's important also for anyone here to be able to tout points that they find interesting. And that's the purpose of public speech.
Amir, the White House chief of staff doesn't make personal statements. He's the White House chief of staff. He speaks for the White House. And this is the guy that a lot of people feel like he's kind of the man behind the curtain. He's really the one running the show. I seem to recall that it was okay for the press to talk about somebody else who used to like to tweet a lot in the past, right?
Double standards, double standards. Yeah, listen, and what he said is just completely wrong. Obviously, Joe Biden says that he's not going to raise taxes on anybody who's making less than $400,000, but inflation is a tax on everybody. It's a tax on the working class, whether it's groceries or whether it's gas. Everybody is paying this tax, and it's due because he has mismanaged on the supply side of things the economy. It is due to his massive spending programs that have just driven up demand. And his putting pressure on the Federal Reserve to keep interest rates low. So Joe Biden is singularly responsible for inflation, which is a tax on everybody. So Ron Klain is wrong. And how elitist could you possibly get?
Yeah, these are elitists who are masquerading as populists. You know, we've been talking about this transition of sort of the flipping where Republicans are now the working class, the party of the working class. I think that this type of a tweet proves it.
Absolutely.
All right, I want to thank our panel. We're going to see you on the other side of the break.